So, on the issue of Stephen A. Smith and Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, a few days ago, I wrote a post just asking Black men what's the next step after the commentary that I see many of you, my son, and others giving on how Stephen A. Smith spoke about not just Jasmine Crockett, but over time, I constantly see things popping up. And I've watched everybody from D.L. Hughley to, a number of people, Willie D, the list goes on, of Black men who are challenging him on different things. And, I have taken issue, which by the way, I don't listen to Stephen A. Smith, right? That's not a person that is a go-to for me because first, by the way, I'm not that inclined like to understand all the sports stuff. So let's just say that off the bat. But I do see clips. And sometimes when I'm looking at the clips, I'm like, wow, is it me? Or maybe I just don't know sports stuff. Maybe I just need to mind my business because there's a million things going on. So as we've talked about before, I saw him say something about Kyrie Irving that I wasn't really cool with. Then it was Jalen Rose, or I think it's Jalen Rose. Is that his name?
Jalen Brown. Jalen
Jalen
Brown.
Brown, Jalen Brown, Jalen Brown. See, sorry, y'all. And in both instances, it felt like what I was hearing him say was pretty much get your money and capitulate, like, or at least just be as, politically correct as possible so that you don't get yourself in trouble. And as people who are in the Congressman John Lewis good trouble business, that this is what we do every day is to get in trouble, to say the things that make people feel uncomfortable, and sometimes to take pay cuts and hits and sacrifices because we're standing up for what we believe in. I find that to be problematic. But again, I'm not a man and I'm also not in the sports world. So I've minded my business and kind of let y'all handle it. But when it comes to Congresswoman Crockett, that's very different for me. I think, first of all, as a Black woman who has had to deal with the attacks against me from people who don't look like me and people who do look like me, sometimes converging in the same moment, it makes me very sensitive to the fact that when you see it happening to someone else and you know what it feels like, you need to speak up and say something on their behalf, right? And I think that the things that Stephen A. Smith said about Jasmine Crockett are incorrect. Even though he has a right to his opinion, we also have a right to say we don't agree with his opinion. And as a result of not agreeing with it, we need to measure how often is this happening? Is he saying things about Black women and making people feel like he has a particular thing about challenging us? I asked that question because I just went and did a quick search and maybe I didn't find it. Maybe he'll correct it. Maybe someone else knows. Just a few weeks ago, Laura Loomer was out here calling Jasmine Crockett every kind of ghetto bitch that you could think of. It was disgusting. Many people went after her for saying it. I didn't hear Stephen A. Smith say anything about that. I also did not hear him say anything about Donald Trump calling her all types of names, including saying that she's low IQ, this woman who's a lawyer, who was a local elected official, who's gone on to become a national elected official, which means that her IQ ain't that low, number one. And number two, when he talks about her being effective and doing the job and bringing something back to her district, guess what? She's obviously doing something because the people of Texas have moved her from local to national, and people support her greatly. And we do appreciate her all around the nation because she says the things that need to be said when you're dealing with thugs. See, the problem is that Stephen A. Smith is used to going in a room with thugs. And in my opinion, he shrinks in those places because what he's looking for is to keep the check. This is why I bring up the Kyrie Irving and the other situations where I've heard him say things that makes me feel like basically don't do too much. Don't be too adversary because you don't want to mess up your opportunity. That's what I hear. And now you're talking about Stephen A. Smith says that she needs to work with Donald Trump and to work with the Republicans. What should she work with them on? Should she work with them on firing the majority of the special education employees within the Department of Education? Oh, no, no, no. Maybe she should work with them on sending ICE into communities where just a couple weeks ago in Chicago, black children were zip tied together with hardly dressed, barely dressed. Maybe she should work with them on that. Maybe she should work with them on the fact that they went after diversity, equity, and inclusion, and over 300,000, we believe that is an undercount, of black women have been pushed out of the workplace. Maybe she should work with him on saying that he's taken away freedom of speech. Maybe she should work with him on, and I could go, cutting Medicaid, cutting Medicare. No, he's a thug. He speaks a certain way. And the reason why they want to challenge and discredit and disrespect her is because she has the audacity to speak truth to power and say the things that need to be said. I wonder if Stephen A. Smith has ever sat down and watched this woman, how she deals with hearings when she goes in with facts and details and undresses those devils every single time that she is before them in a committee meeting and in a hearing. I wonder if he does that, if he pays attention. So yeah, I take it real personal. And I heard them talking on the Breakfast Club about, we shouldn't be canceling people for their opinions. Well, see, here's the thing. They don't mind doing it to us. Disney, which employs, right? And Joyanne Reed said this to the other day when I was on her show with Jackie Reed. She said something that is so powerful. She said Disney didn't like the opinion of Jimmy Kimmel. And so guess what they did? They suspended him and took him off the air. We are the only people that when we get offended, people tell us, well, it's an opinion and you shouldn't do this or that. We are in a time when black people, especially black men or black people who have major platforms, who have the ability to influence our people in mass, when they say something that is out of line or they are adding their voice to the discrediting and the disrespect of a powerful black woman who is standing up for us every single day. We're in a time where people need to challenge that behavior. Stephen A. Smith is not just somebody sitting on the side of the road with his opinion. Stephen A. Smith has a large audience and he presents himself as being someone who is tapped into black culture. And that's why we have every right to challenge him. And I have every right to ask the question, will black men have a campaign, not just to challenge him on the internet, but you can turn him off. Everybody else can watch him, but you can decide to turn him off. And just to say this last thing, and I'll close it up. Let's be very clear, because I don't want people to think, because that was another narrative that I had with a colleague of mine who said, well, why we got so much smoke for the black folks, but we don't have the same smoke for these white people. Well, guess what? Don Imus sat on the radio with his opinion about the women's basketball team, which was mostly black women at Rutgers University. And he called them nappy-headed hoes. And the same thing that I'm suggesting around what needs to be done with Stephen A. Smith, where he needs to have his ass checked, guess what? That's what we did to Don Imus's white self. And you know what happened? He was fired because we made sure that the radio station that he was on and all of his other little business entities that he was involved in, if it aligned in any way with black people being consumers of it, we shut his ass down. So opinions don't always just fly. Opinions also at times have consequences and have ramifications, and you can be held accountable for it, especially if your opinion has the potential to lend itself to people being able to say, well, look, even the black people feel this way because look at what Stephen A. Smith has to say. I have been the subject of the same types of attacks, and I'm going to speak up for Jasmine Crockett, whether she asked me to or not. We ain't talked about it. So it ain't about us her in the background trying to get us. We haven't talked about it, but we know better than to allow it to happen to her, because what happens to her happens to the rest of us.
Well, I just want to say that I stand with you 100%. You know, Stephen A. Smith has been a problem, and I hate that we have to have this type of conversation about a black man. You know, it's really sad that we have black men like him that constantly use their voice to attack us. In these moments, we have to celebrate brothers like Ryan Clark, Jason Williams, Steven Jackson, Matt Barnes, brothers who sit on those platforms, who have big voices and amplify black people. You know, it's really sad. The contradiction here is so crazy to me because I watched Stephen A. Smith talk about Jaylen Brown, and he talked about Jaylen Brown, who was one of the most intelligent men, and they said that he was too smart, that he was too arrogant, right? And that he wasn't marketable. So you talk about somebody who has all of the qualifications and he was too smart and he was too arrogant. And now Jasmine Crockett, who is speaking the language that she wants to speak, who is meeting the devil where they are, she's speaking too ghetto. Like you don't even know what you are. You contradicting. Do you want us to sound like they want us to sound when they want us to
When
sound
they,
like it?
that's right.
And it's
That's right.
and it's not okay. We're gonna
That's right.
always be who we are, and we need brothers and sisters who uplift us. So if you're gonna sit on those platforms and act like you represent a black man, then represent us properly, black man. Don't utilize your voice to parrot white supremacist talking points. Because that's what you've been. You've been a white supremacist parrot for the last year. And it's really sad to see you up always like I've had differences of opinions with you when it comes to, sports and this and that, but from what you did to LeBron's son, from what you did to Kyrie, from what you did to Jaylen Brown, even what you did to Serena Williams, and I'm glad that her husband checked you, and now with this Jasmine Crockett situation,
Don't
it's just
forget
out of
Kamala
control.
Harris. Don't forget Kamala
And don't
Harris.
forget Kamala Harris. You
That's
you
right.
you have lended your voice to attack black people over and over, and everybody is saying it, and I don't understand why you don't see it. And I think you do see it, and I think you actually being paid to do this. And it's sad that you're doing it, but I stand with my sister, and I'm gonna always uplift my black woman. And Tamika, I'm with you, man. I'm not
Yeah.
watching Stephen A. Smith.
Yeah, that's I mean, that's just where it is for me. I saw that in his response, he went back to play a clip of Jasmine Crockett speaking on Governor Abbott. And she said Hot Wheels. She explained herself. She made it clear that if people, if anybody took it as I was speaking to or trying to make fun of him being disabled, that wasn't the case, so on and so forth. But guess what? That same clip, that's what the Fox News propaganda, that's what they use as well. Why did he not show the clips of what she's actually saying about the evil bullshit that these people are doing? You went back to a clip from March of 2025. Here we are all the way in damn near November, and you went back to pull a clip which would be probably one of the only things that you can find that people had a legitimate question about whether or not she may have been saying something about him being disabled, right? Of which she clarified and spoke on, and you didn't play that part. But you did not show the clips of where she's supposed to be so ghetto or speaking in a way that is, not going to get anything done when she checking them devils on the trash that they are pushing, that they're trying to do in our community. You ain't show her talking about fascism and authoritarianism and how dangerous this administration is. That is the job that we need from Jasmine Crockett right now. We need her to speak truth to power, and we stand behind her 100%. We're going to do that. We're going to be with Jasmine Crockett. People just need to know it's protect her at all costs, because what she's doing puts her life on the line every day. And when folks sit up and listen to a black man with a platform at the level of Stephen A. Smith, when them devils listen to what he says, they believe that the sick thoughts in their mind about how they feel about this woman, Laura Loomer, who Donald Trump says is amazing, right? They might have a little cat fight going on right now, but he says she was amazing. She's been racist. She's been nasty. She's been disrespectful. And
And
I ain't
Marjorie
never,
Taylor Greene
and,
and those.
And she
I ain't
got a
heard
little
this.
cat fight going on too. And I never seen you talk about them. I didn't hear you sit up there and ask why the hell Hakeem Jeffries would sign on to the Charlie Kirk resolution knowing that that man was racist towards our community. Why you ain't say nothing about that? Why you ain't challenging some of these other black Democrats that sell us out all the time? No, you want to go after a black woman. And just like somebody said, well, why we always go after black people? Because when we go after black people, you know, that's easy low-hanging fruit. You know what else is low-hanging fruit? Attacking a black woman. That's low-hanging fruit too. Be a little bit more sophisticated in challenging what elected officials are doing to get things done or not done in our government. That's what you need to do. And if you don't know what you're talking about, be quiet and step aside because we got this. You know what you need to do? Talk about sports. That's what you should do.
You're not really that good at that either. But after what she said, this is what
I'm done.
That's it. The mic drop. End it with the mic drop.